Today we are going to read about the amorphous forms of carbon. We have discussed previously about the crystalline forms. Today we will discuss the amorphous forms. And one of the most common amorphous form is charcoal. Actually, charcoal, I told you the previous day about the process of manufacturing of charcoal by destructive distillation of wood. There is another type of charcoal which is known as active charcoal. That charcoal is also produced by destructive distillation of coconut shells. Coconut shells, after uh, excavating the pulp, the white portion of the coconut, the remaining hard uh, hemispherical shell, actually it is a sphere. When we crack it, it gets into two parts. It gets split into two parts, two hemispheres, and these two hemispheres, after drying in the sun, if it is dipped in zinc chloride solution, it is primarily dipped in zinc chloride solution, and then it is dried in the sun. And after drying in the sun, that coconut shells is subjected to destructive distillation process, and in this process the charcoal produced, it is known as active charcoal, because normal charcoal has some properties, but active charcoal has more properties, has more dominant properties like adsorption, decolorization. It can do these things. Actually, there is one experiment in your book. It is a ink. You have not seen this type of ink. We have used it in fountain pens previously. There is a filter paper and some activated charcoal dust is put in this filter paper, and when ink is poured, the water part of this ink is allowed to come at the bottom. The blue color of the ink has been faded very much. It is very dark blue in color, and when it passes through the charcoal block, it is almost transparent. It is slightly blue in color, and if you again repeat this process, actually if you pour this ink in another filter paper having activated charcoal dust, it will become completely colorless. Actually, what happens, the molecules for which the color is being, actually there are some specific molecules for which a solution becomes colorful. So here is a model. You can see the model that actually it is the surface of the charcoal. This is the surface of the charcoal, and this is the molecule of which is responsible for color, and these molecules stick to the surface of the charcoal, and this is the force with which this symbolizes the force with which the surface attracts the color molecules. So active charcoal has decolorization properties. Also, it is used as a filter for various substances. In your home there might be a water filter having a carbon filter inside it, and that carbon, when water passes through that carbon, the impurities which is already dissolved in water gets adsorbed, not absorbed, adsorbed. When any substance gets stuck to the surface of a material, it is known as adsorption, not absorption. This material absorbs the activated charcoal absorbs all the impurities of water, and it becomes very much pure. So activated charcoal is used in our drinking water filtration process, and After using for many days, that activated charcoal loses its property of adsorption. It does not absorb the impurities anymore, and so what happens, the color molecules or the impurity molecules which is already dissolved in water cannot get separated, and at that time we require to replace the filter. In this way activated charcoal acts in filtration process. Here it is written in Bengali. বিশেষভাবে তৈরি চারকোল তার পৃষ্ঠতলে অনেক গ্যাস অণুকে ধরে রাখতে পারে, একে বলা হয় সক্রিয় চারকোল, অ্যাক্টিভেটেড চারকোল. Activated charcoal is also used in masks. You have seen policemen who are maintaining the traffic they have to stand amidst polluted air, the polluted air of the vehicles. They use a particular type of mask which has a activated charcoal filter inside it. That activated charcoal filter absorbs the poisonous gases, and the police personnel who use it are kept safe from the evil effects of those gases. Also there are many other uses of activated charcoal. It is also used in absorption of actually smoke particles. Smoke particles are emitted at some places. Activated charcoal can absorb smoke also. Let me go through this part. Actually this is the classification part. Charcoal is also used, not activated charcoal, only ordinary charcoal. It is used as a fuel also. You have heard about the firecrackers which I have discussed in the previous day. Also there are different types of areas where charcoal is also used. Charcoal is used in the process of heating metals in goldsmith furnaces, the furnaces which the goldsmith use, also in the blacksmith furnaces. Have you ever been, I do not know whether you have ever been to a blacksmith furnace or a goldsmith furnace workshop. In a goldsmith workshop they use a special type of oven. In that oven gold is melted in presence of in Bengali it is called shohaga. Shohaga is a shohaga is a chemical compound. It is known as sodium metaborate. Sodium metaborate, when added to gold, it helps to melt gold at a much lower temperature. Gold is melted and it is made pure by several processes. There are many processes, but the process of melting of gold is mainly done by burning charcoal. Also charcoal is also burned for in blacksmith's workshop. They before making any special type of instrument they heat up the iron, it becomes red hot, and after some time they after becoming red hot they beat it into different shapes and different instruments are produced. Also the charcoal which actually also the coal which is found in the mines, which is dug up from the mines by excavators. You know, in India there is a company, it is called Coal India Limited. Coal India Limited controls the mining of coal in different areas of India. It has ancillaries also like ECL, Eastern Coalfields Limited, BCCL, Bharat Coking Coal Limited. These are the ancillaries of Coal India Limited. This Coal India also, the coal produced by the company dug up from the coal mines, it is actually a form of charcoal. The coal we use is actually charcoal, but it is naturally obtained charcoal. That naturally obtained charcoal, uh, generally it has different types of impurities in it. It has it does not possess very good how to say, very good absorption or color removing property, but it can be used as a fuel purpose, and that coal is used in our thermal power plant also for the production of steam to run the turbines. So these are the major uses of charcoal. You have to learn these uses. Next comes in Bengali what is called Bhushokali. In English it is called lamp black. Lamp black is produced when a kerosene lamp or a uh, mustard oil lamp, pradip in Bengali, which is called a pradip, if you keep a uh, plate or a paper just above the flame at a height, then it is found that black dust like black dust deposits on the black on the paper or the plate, and that black dust is known as lamp black, and that lamp black is generally used to prepare black color. The we use the paint we use, or the black color we use in different areas, it is dissolved in various solvents, and that lamp black is used as a purely in the form of purely it is used in the form of color. Also you have heard about the use of kajol for children. That kajol was initially produced by lamp black from the flame, from the lamp black produced from the lamp produced from ghee, not from mustard oil. ঘিয়ের প্রদীপের ভুষো থেকে যে ভুষোটা জমা হতো সেটা থেকে কাজল তৈরি করা হতো, সেটা তারপর ইট ইজ দ্যাট ডাস্ট ইজ এগেন dissolved or it is mixed with ghee and it produced kajol. That is actually kajol. Nowadays it is available in the market, that is synthetic kajol. That is not good actually. You can use pure ghee at home to produce kajol. And next is coke. Coke is also another type of it is mainly used as a fuel. There are coke oven plants in several areas of the country. They also, the coke is a very good coke has a very good percentage of carbon in it, and it is a very good fuel. It has high calorific value also. Coke is also used in industries as a reducing agent. What is a reducing agent? Which can reduce oxides of metals into its metallic forms. Actually, suppose you have a particular metal in its oxide form, you can mix coke with it and then heat it, and after heating it for some time, the oxygen part which is already present in the oxide of the metal, it gets chemically reacted with the carbon of the coke, and then it flies away, and so what remains is the metal. I have one similar experience. I have one in Bengali it is called katari. I have one such thing, but it was very old and it was rusted totally. Rust was everywhere. What I did, actually I did not use coke. Actually I used lamp black actually, but it has the same function. If you use coke, it will have the, it will give you the same reaction. I actually spread lamp black all over the surface of that material, and then heat it in an oven for a long time. I heated it for a long time, and after heating it I found that the rust the rust is a oxide. Actually it is a hydrated oxide of iron. Its formula is Fe2O3 XH2O. So when that Fe2O3 was heated in presence of carbon, the oxygen part reacted with carbon to produce carbon dioxide, and what I got back is the pure and rust free metal of iron. Actually in this process we can also remove the rust. In blacksmith's workshop, what they do, when you give them a rusted substance, rusted material, like any scissors or something like that, they put it in the charcoal flame. They keep it for some time, 5 to 10 minutes, and it becomes red hot, and in that flame there is carbon present everywhere in that flame, and in that after heating for some time, the rust reacts with carbon, the oxygen part reacts with carbon, and it vanishes away. The remaining is the gas carbon. It is named gas carbon, but it is not actually a gas. I do not know what is the reason for naming it gas carbon. It is named as gas carbon, but it is a solid material. You have seen probably, if you have any curious if you have any curious nature, you might open a defective or a used up cell in your home, and you will find a black colored rod inside it. Have you ever opened a electric cell in your home after discharging it or removing it from any instrument? বাড়িতে তোমাদের যেখানে যেখানে ইলেকট্রিক সেল ব্যবহার করা হয়, আমরা ব্যাটারি বলি, ভুল বলি, যেখানে যেখানে ইলেকট্রিক সেল ব্যবহার হয়, যেরকম ঘড়িতে বা ইত্যাদিতে, টর্চে, সেইখান থেকে সেই টর্চের ব্যাটারি বা টর্চের সেল শেষ হয়ে যাওয়ার পর কোনোদিন সেটাকে ভেঙে বা খুলে ছাড়িয়ে দেখেছো ভেতরে কি আছে? Have you ever do these things? Have you ever done these things? If
না স্যার,
হ্যাঁ, কেউ করনি?
না স্যার।
Oh, so if you have ever done these things, you might have noticed that there is a black colored rod inside it, and that black colored rod is made up of gas carbon. Also you will learn about motors in higher classes, electrical motors, electrical dynamos. They also have actually what the name they are given is brushes. They have gas carbon brushes inside it, and gas carbon is a good conductor of electricity. So gas carbon acts. Actually among the allotropes of carbon, only graphite and gas carbon has electrical conductivity. The others are non-conductors of electricity. The gas carbon, which is used in the motor as motor brush, supplies the current to the circuit inside it, and this gas carbon, after using the electric motor or electric drill for a long time, the gas carbon brush is wired up. That means it gets wired away, and it needs to be replaced. And after replacing it, it again gets back its functionality. In this way, these are the main uses of gas carbon, and these are the main uses of all the allotropes of carbon. And these are blood charcoal, bone charcoal. These may be used as fertilizers. They have limited uses. Mainly this part is used in um, as a fuel purpose, and this is for paint varnishes. This is also for fuel purpose, and this is a electrical conductor. It is used in making dry cells and in motor brushes, motor and dynamo brushes. It is called brush. Actually, again, there is another thing, graphene. Graphene is another form of carbon which is used in nanotechnology. Do you know what is? Have you heard the term nanotechnology? Have you heard, any one of you?
স্যার কি বললেন শুনতে পেলাম না।
Have you heard the term nanotechnology?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
তাহলে শুনেছি স্যার।
কোথায় শুনেছো?
স্যার ওই ফুলারিন ইউজড হয় ন্যানো টেকনোলজিতে, ওইখানে শুনেছি।
ও, এছাড়া আর কোথাও শোনোনি, তাই তো? আর
না।
সৌমিক, কোথায় শুনেছো?
ওই ফুলাইন তৈরি হয় সেখানে শুনেছি।
আচ্ছা, nanotechnology কথাটা, you will find that this term is used in many sectors nowadays. Nanotechnology, what is nanotechnology? Just think about what is nano technology. You mean, you know the meaning. What is nano? Actually, 1/100th of a meter, it is millimeter, isn't it? 100, so I am wrong, it is 1,000th of a millimeter. 1,000th of a millimeter, it is 1 millimeter, is it? Response, give response.
স্যার কি বললেন শুনতে পেলাম না।
One
শুনতে পেলাম
thousand, 1,000th of a meter, it is 1 millimeter, isn't it?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
হ্যাঁ
ইয়েস স্যার।
এই
Now,
স্যার।
now 1,000th of a millimeter, do you know what it is it called? 1,000 of a millimeter?
স্যার মাইক্রোমিটার।
Yes, it is called micrometer. And 1,000th of a micrometer, it is called nanometer. Okay, got it? 1,000th of a micrometer, it is called nanometer. And the laws of physics and chemistry in the nanometer level, it is quite different. The thing which you observe in millimeter level and micrometer level, it gets changed to some form in nanometer level. So there are different magnetic properties, different chemical properties found in nanometer level. So this nanotechnology, the name itself suggests that it is the property of all materials at a very smaller level, at a very minute level. So in this level, we may one day will come. Uh, Nowadays, I have heard about one research topic that, all cancer patients, they have to go through chemotherapy. In chemotherapy, what happens? Actually, a medicine is administered, a chemical is administered in the patient, and that chemical actually burns the cancerous cells, the cells which has cancer in it, and these chemicals burn those cells, and this therapy has to be continued. And for this therapy, what happens? uh, the good cells which do not have cancers in our body also get um, damaged, or also get killed. In this way, will lose. Any person who has undergone a chemotherapy, he or she loses hair, he or she gets very lean in figure. Actually the good cells are also killed in this process. But in nanotechnical usage, what happens, they are using some special type of nanomedicines which will target, which will carry that medicine to the cancerous cells only. The medicine will be encapsulated, will be filled inside a capsule, and it will be transported in different parts of the body through blood, and after reaching a cancerous cell, only the capsule coating will dissolve, and the medicine uh, for chemotherapy, which is uh, killing the cancerous cells, will start to work in that area only. That means in that case the good cells will not get damaged. So it is a very efficient technology, and I had the opportunity of being selected in a research project about nanotechnology before joining your school. But it is my um, misfortune, or what else could I say, it is my misfortune that I have to join I had to join your school in the year 2007, and I have to leave the offer of doing a research on nanotechnology. I was selected as a research worker in the University of Burdwan at that time to work in magnetic properties of nanotechnology. I had that opportunity, but I could not pursue that course. I could also have done a PhD with that. It was a CSIR project. But let me carry it to the next part. Calorific value. Now, what is calorific value? Calorific value is the amount of heat which is generated by burning or combusting a fuel completely, and it is expressed in the unit kilocalorie per kilogram. Just see this graph. Hydrogen has the highest calorific value. LPG is somewhat less. Diesel, kerosene, petrol, uh, they are more or less nearer to each other. Koila means coal, it is less than petrol. Wood is much lesser. So we use mainly these items as fuel. Hydrogen fuel, it is actually very not expensive, I would tell. Hydrogen fuel is very disastrous to use as a fuel. Hydrogen is a very explosive gas, so generally it is avoided at all cost. But nowadays research is being carried out to use hydrogen as a fuel in cars and vehicles, so that there will be a cylinder which will be filled with hydrogen, and that hydrogen will run the cars. There is one thing I can tell you: hydrogen run cars will not emit any pollution, because what happens, petrol, kerosene, diesel, all contains organic compounds, and all organic compounds are carbon compounds. Petrol contains uh, ethyl alcohol also. I know that LPG contains butane, that is another organic compound. All of those organic compounds, if you burn them in presence of oxygen, what happens? Carbon dioxide is produced, and we are badly trying to decrease the amount of carbon dioxide in order to uh, lower the greenhouse effect. You know what is greenhouse effect? You have heard about it. Actually, we are already trying to decrease that greenhouse effect, but we can't reduce the carbon emission. Carbon emission means carbon emission. How is carbon emitted? It is emitted in the form of carbon dioxide. Carbon emitted. Carbon emission means the emission as smoke from burning fuel. It may be wood, it may be coal, it may be petrol. Actually, carbon dioxide is produced in all the cases, but not in case of hydrogen. What happens in case of hydrogen? In case of hydrogen, the hydrogen gas, when it reacts with the oxygen present in air, what will it produce? It will produce water vapor. Only the water vapor in the environment will increase. So if water vapor is increased, what will happen? Clouds will be formed, and the areas will get more and more rainfall, nothing else. So in areas where it rains very little, those areas will also get rainfall due to this water vapor emission. It will not cause any um, otherwise effect like pollution. Although carbon dioxide is not a pollutant, it may it may seem ridiculous to you that carbon dioxide is a non-pollutant. Carbon dioxide does not make any pollution. Carbon dioxide is a non-poisonous gas. If you smell carbon dioxide, it will cause nothing to you, but after inhaling carbon dioxide for long, you will get breathing trouble. That is a separate thing. That is because due to deficiency of oxygen. Carbon dioxide is not doing any harm to you, but you are not getting oxygen, so the scarcity of oxygen will give some menace to you, some breathing trouble to you. So from this chart we can clearly understand which fuel has a greater calorific value and which fuel has a less calorific value. But see, LPG has a greater calorific value than petrol, so LPG is more conveniently used nowadays as a fuel. It is also used in our cooking purpose. So LPG, and another thing about LPG, burning of LPG also does not cause any pollution. It only produces carbon dioxide. It does not produce any smoke also. You have seen in your mother's kitchen that when the LPG ovens are running, that is they are in ignited condition, there is no smoke coming out from the flame. So actually it is a clean fuel. We call those fuels clean fuel which only emit carbon dioxide, nothing else. No other gas are emitted in this process. But in case of burning of petrol, kerosene, diesel, etc., smoke comes out. Smoke means there are some other things apart from carbon dioxide mixed in that material. So those substances are not good for our health. In rockets, liquid hydrogen is used as a fuel. It is written also. You can feel these things. You read this data yourself. It is just statistics which has told you that the amount of fuel which has used by mankind up to 1900, up to the year 1900, is 10%, and the remaining 90% in the century 1900 to 2000. So in 100 years the 90% of the fuel is already being burnt, and the reserve of coal in the environment, it is getting decreased day by day. So we have to think for some other forms of fuels. Here it is written how a steam turbine works in thermal power plants. You have seen the when rice is boiled in your home, the lid of the container in which rice is boiled, it gets lifted off by the pressure of the steam. The same thing happens in thermal power plant. The pressure of the steam is used to run turbines, and that turbines are added or connected to dynamos which produces electricity. There are coal washers. কোল ওয়াশার্স ক্যান কোল ওয়াশার্সের ফলে একটা অসুবিধা আছে। দেয়ার আর ওয়ান থিং, ইট রিকোয়ার্স এ লট অফ ওয়াটার, প্রচুর জল নষ্ট হয়। অ্যান্ড অ্যানাদার থিং ইজ দ্যাট coal is to be dried before using, so coal washing is not practiced in all places. Again it is written, the petroleum, the fuel, petrol, diesel, etc., they are transported from the oil producing countries by ships. There are oil tankers, ships, and sometimes those ships, if they get drowned, what happens? The oil gets dissolved, gets sprayed in the water bodies, and it kills many aquatic plants and animals. It is a very cause of concern. You just read yourself, you can understand all these things. There are no technically very difficult issues here. Let me discuss about some alternative sources. In Bengali it is written as Shaur Shakti, Vayu Shakti, Bhutap Shakti, জোয়ার ভাটা শক্তি, জৈব উৎস থেকে প্রাপ্ত জ্বালানি, পারমাণবিক শক্তি. Let us discuss one by one. সৌর শক্তি, solar energy. The energy we are using is solar energy also. We are using coal, we are using petroleum. How are they being formed? Actually coal is the fossilized form of plants which has been fossilized, which had gone under the soil millions of years ago. Petroleum and natural gases are the fossilized forms of animals which have gone underground millions of years ago. So how did the plant survive? The plant survive because of the sunlight. Actually the energy which is burnt in coal, it has been stored in the plants from the photosynthesis, done by photosynthesis. The plants have done photosynthesis, solar energy was stored in the plants, and those plants got fossilized and they are been dug out as coal. So we are using the solar energy in other terms, and that is creating problem, that is creating a lot of pollution. So what is now it is very much acceptable, it is the use of solar panels. There is a picture here you can see, and this type of panels are also installed in the rooftop of a school building. You have seen it. That solar panel, they have small cells. It is called solar cells. They are made out of silicon. Those solar cells can directly convert solar energy or the light energy of the sun into electrical energy, electrical power, and that electrical power is utilized. But one thing to remember, these solar cells are not a very good option. Although solar cells have a long lifespan, they need not to be get serviced every day. Only one thing you have to do is to clean the surface of the solar panels, otherwise dust may catch and a good amount of light will not reach the solar cells. and it will reduce the amount of electricity production. So what to do? You have to clean the surface. That much is sufficient. But what I am going to tell it is that the solar cells, in order to produce solar cells, you have to melt silicon, and you have to uh, produce pure silicon. You have to produce uh, nearly 100% pure silicon. It is a chemical process, industrial chemical process, and in this process you have to melt silicon. How will you get silicon? You will get silicon from sand. The sand is the chief source of silicon. Actually, silicon is present in sand as silicon dioxide. That silicon dioxide is to be melted, and that from that by some processes, by some reduction process, silicon is to be extracted. Now just think, in order to melt sand, what temperature is required? It requires a very high temperature. So actually, in order to produce solar cells, you are actually burning a lot of carbonaceous fuel like coal to produce that amount of heat, which the solar cell can't produce in its whole lifetime of 40 years. তুমি যতটা কয়লা পুড়িয়ে ওই সিলিকনটাকে মেল্ট করছো, ততটা পরিমাণ শক্তি ও তার সারা জীবনেও তৈরি করতে পারবে না। Also, it will produce pollution. Burning of coal, etc., will produce pollution. So manufacturing process of solar cells, it is very much it is a very costly technology, as well as it requires a lot of carbonaceous fuel, এবং সেই carbonaceous fuel তুমি ডাইরেক্ট থার্মাল পাওয়ার প্ল্যান্টে ব্যবহার করলে you could have produced a much more amount of electricity rather than that solar cell. So solar cell is not a very good option. There is a very good option actually, which our country is not interested till now. It is actually solar tower. You may search the internet for solar tower. In Australia they have installed solar tower, and electricity is being manufactured from solar tower, using solar tower. It is a clean process, and it uses the solar energy in other form. Next is wind energy. Wind energy, you know, it is used mainly in the form of turbine, wind turbine. There are windmills in different places. Actually, these windmills are very hard to find, because in our places there are not a continuous source of wind. Actually, these windmills are generally installed in actually coastal areas, or in the seashore areas. In those areas, the sea breeze and the land breeze continuously flows in the daytime and nighttime, and by the help of that wind, by the thrust of that wind, the windmills run, and the mechanical energy produced in that process is used alternatively to produce electricity. There are some places where windmills are also used to crush grains. There are in Bengali what you say as gomkol, grain crusher. Those grain crusher, actually in the 18th century, windmills are used to crush grains. There are large units, especially in England. There were large windmills. And next is the geothermal energy. What is geothermal energy? You know that the internal region or the interior of the earth, it is very hot, and if we pour some water in that, if we allow some water to flow through that area, it will be immediately converted into steam. So if we can make a pipeline in that area, and send water from above, what will happen? The water will be instantly converted into steam by the heat of the earth, and that water, that steam will come out and it will give pressure to the turbine, and the turbine will rotate to produce electricity. It has also some limitations, but it is a clean in type of energy. It does not have any pollution, or it does not produce any pollution. Next is the what to say, next is the um, tidal energy. Tidal energy is actually, it is used in different forms. There are floats made in oceans which are oscillated with the oscillation of the waves. Again, due to the motion of the water current in the oceans, there are huge fan blades which rotate inside it by the thrust of the water of the seas. In this way, we can also use this energy, tidal energy, in some rivers which are perennial rivers, which have high tide and low tide in its nature, in its geographical character. That tidal flow can be used to produce electricity also. During the high tide, water flows from the sea into the river, and if the proper arrangement is can be made in that time, the blade will rotate in one direction, and when during the low tide, when water from the river will carry out in the or go out into the sea, the blades will rotate in the reverse direction. If there be a commutator, it will reverse the direction of current in different times, and it can also supply energy. But mainly the perennial rivers in our country, they are suffering from many problems, like their depth are decreasing day by day. The river Ganges is being dredged. Dredging of rivers, have you heard? Actually, the depth is the river bed is actually dredged by some mechanical means, and the depth is increased, but continuous deposition of alluvium and sand gradually decreases the depth. So these type of materials which can produce energy uh, may be installed, but it will not work if proper dredging is not done time to time. That is also a costly item, dredging of rivers. And another is energy from organic sources, like uh, you have heard about gobar gas in Bengali. In rural areas where there is a availability of cow dung, that cow dung is decomposed in special chambers, and methane gas is produced in that, which is popularly known as gobar gas, and that gas is utilized for cooking purpose and ignition purpose, and that is also um, a clean fuel because it produces only carbon dioxide, nothing else. And the last one is atomic energy. This atomic energy, there are atomic power stations, nuclear power stations in different parts of our country. They actually use special nuclear reactions, and those nuclear reactions, when they are allowed to occur, they produce a large amount of heat. That large amount of heat produces steam, which is again used to run the turbines. You have heard about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the atom bombs. The atom bombs are actually have such a devastating power. The power comes from nuclear reactions, and if that nuclear reaction can be controlled and can be done for a longer time, it can heat up large amount of water, and also it can um, give হ্যালো, বলছি তুমি আমায় একটু বাদে ফোন করো, আমি ক্লাস নিচ্ছি এখন। বেশ। Where we were? Actually, the um, energy released in the process is used to produce steam, and the same process is used to produce atom bombs also. In during the explosion of atom bomb, that energy, the whole amount of energy is emitted within a fraction of a second, and if that huge amount of energy can be extracted over a year with very little amount, it can run nuclear power plants, and it can energize homes also. I mean, it can enlight homes. So in this way the atomic energies are utilized. The nuclear reactions involved in the process are known as nuclear fission reaction, and those reactors, the nuclear power plants are known as nuclear reactors. Those nuclear reactors are known as uh, nuclear fission reactors. The reaction is known as nuclear fission, and these are known as nuclear fission reactors. India has also two or three nuclear reactors which produces atomic energy. These are the alternative forms of energy. You just go through them, and uh, there is this is the actually it is the uh, this is geothermal energy. This is the picture. This is the tidal energy, biomass. Also, apart from biogas, there are also many type of items which are used as biofuel. আমরা সকলেই জানি যে আমাদের মানে অনেকেই কাঠ পাতা ইত্যাদি জ্বালানি হিসেবে ব্যবহার করি, কিন্তু দিস আর ভেরি পলিউটিং fuels. This should be discarded. Biofuel. You just go through it. These are already life science topic. We'll go through carbon dioxide in the next class, but in today's class, if you have any queries, just go through it. Just ask me. Have you got any queries?
Sir, I haven't.
The rest of you?
না স্যার।
So just go through what I have told today, and for now leave the session.